My name is Jay Dhaliwal. I'm 53 years old. Uh, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son. I'm a colleague of all those wonderful people in this room, working on this really audacious mission to change the world. And when I say change the world, it's not one of those egotistical things of where I think I'm so special and I'm going to do something so great. It really is a very personal journey and a personal mission. And I'll give you a little bit of insight in terms of how I got to where I am today and how this company, this organization, this technology got here today. By education and training, I'm an engineer, a software engineer, and I have a business degree from one of the best business schools in the world, University of Chicago. And for many, many years, I was involved in creating encryption software tools and decryption software tools and working on machine language. So really the precursor to AI that we have today. It all stems from those early investigations of figuring out how can information learn from itself. And I did that for a very long period of time. But before that even, I was just a very curious kid who wanted to know almost everything about anything. And that really was instilled in me by my parents. And really it's, my relationship with my family and my mother and my father and my children and my siblings really have been, and I think we can all say that to a large degree, that, nature and nurture is so important. And, the things that are fun and easy in our lives teach us some things, and things that are hard and difficult certainly have important lessons to teach us as well. But my fascination with neurology and health and wellness really stems, not really, absolutely stems from my mother's diagnosis of multiple sclerosis in 1983. And in 1983, I was 13 years old. And MS was a black box of understanding for the medical community. It's still a black box today, but it was an absolute black box in 1983. And basically the diagnosis was, we believe you have MS. Sorry about your bad luck, Mrs. Dhaliwal. Good luck. And, for a long period of time, up to that point, honestly, ladies and gentlemen, up to that point in time, I thought doctors knew everything. I thought they had all the answers, because every time I got sick or somebody got sick, we'd go to the doctor, they'd give us something, and a little while later, you'd feel better, right? You'd get over whatever was bothering you. And here was this doctor who was our family doctor, who's an absolutely brilliant, brilliant man and caring man. And he's telling my mother and my parents, and I remember sitting, imagine this is a desk, my mom and dad are in the front, my brother's sitting with my mom, and I'm in the chair that's behind them. And he's telling them this, and my parents are looking at me like I would have some answer. Like I don't have any answers. I'm just shocked that the doctor he said there's no cure for this, and we don't know what it causes it. But that really started this. It opened my mind to a lot of things. Number one, it opened my mind that we don't know everything. At a very young age, I realized that we certainly don't know everything. And then when you start reading and back in the day, we went to the library. Remember, hey, we're all about the same age. Remember going to the library back in the day when we had to do homework, and you sit there and you pull all the books off the racks and you'd flip through it, and maybe out of a book this big, you'd find about this much that was actually useful, but you had to go through the whole book. Yeah, that. So that's where I was trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out neurology. I was trying to figure out, and I read everything. So Toronto, where I grew up, is actually blessed with just a phenomenal education system. At least it was back in then, especially in the university systems and the public libraries were really, really phenomenal back in the day. There's just a lot of information there. And I would just start reading and just trying to figure out what was causing this. And just absorbing information, but just trying to know that, hey, I was trying to figure out ways to help my mom. And really the only thing we had at our disposal back then was, hey, try to keep exercise going, good nutrition, the cornerstones of health and wellness. But mom's condition, she had very progressive MS. She went from diagnosis, she had symptoms earlier. The diagnosis came in 83. From diagnosis, she went to completely in a wheelchair within 18 months. So by the end of 85, this was like, and my mom was like Wonder Woman, right? Superwoman, took care of the kids, took care of everything. She worked as a seamstress at a place which made denim jeans. It was, so we always had these denim jeans. It was terrible, right? Right? They weren't Levi's and they weren't the cool jeans. There was these other jeans, right? And that's what you had to wear because that's what mom got. And it was just one of those things, and we adapted as a family, right? We just circled around my mom to make sure that everything was okay, and certainly a lot of responsibilities fell on me being the eldest. I had a younger brother, younger sister. Dad was, we went from a two-income household to a single income household, so you can imagine. I think we've all been there, right? With as children or as adults, and even in our own families, life sometimes throws just unbelievably difficult challenges at us, right? And most of us usually overcome them in time. Sometimes we can come to them very quickly. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But I think that human spirit in us is to fight and to survive. But anyway, so to continue on this, so neurology's been renting space in my head for a very long time, and specifically trying to help my mom. So as I grew older, had a fantastic career in technology, very blessed, a life full of a lot of abundance in that regard. I was able to take my mom to specialists all over the world for the latest, greatest breakthroughs in treating neurodegenerative conditions, treating MS, and really not a lot of luck, right? We really didn't see it, and certainly mainstream medicine was coming up with different concoctions to slow it down. But by the time those things had come around, MS had completely ravaged her. It just had left her bedridden. She's still with me, God bless her, and she has her ups and downs still. But she's really a miracle person. And she's miraculous. I mean, she's been diagnosed with MS for 40 years now. And the doctors are like, she goes, we don't understand. I go, don't worry, you don't need to understand. I understand, and she understands of why she's still with us. She's got full cognitive abilities. Certainly, I haven't been able to get her walking again or standing again or all those other things, but she really has her spirit and her cognitive abilities and ability to eat and swallow, think, see, hear, speak. It's all great. But over those many years, I took her to so many places, and what became really abundant to me was, and I think we all know this, but specifically to neuro rehabilitation or neuro treatments. The majority of the world, mainstream medicine, even alternative medicine to a large degree, is going down three roads. One is some kind of chemical, drug, or nutritional road where, hey, if you eat this, consume this, apply this, you're going to have some results. We didn't have any results. The other stream is that electrical stimulation. Hey, we're going to add some kind of electrical current or some kind of other energy to your body that's not already inside your body, and we're going to try to get some corrective measures. So you have things like transcranial stimulation, you have things like implants, you have things like electrical stimulation, you have things like nerve conduction, you have all these different things that typically are not very comfortable and don't really have consistent results. And if they are consistent, they're expensive, too hard to do, and too hard to maintain. And then third, finally, is some kind of surgery or invasive process where they're trying to put something into our body. And the illustrious Mr. Elon Musk now wants to put a chip in our head because apparently, working already 40 to 60 hours a week isn't enough. We should be completely plugged into the universe, online things, so we can't sleep. But that's just me ranting about something I don't approve of. The point. So this is what's happening, right? This is where the world is still today. And I remember the last thing that came across that I wanted to take my mom to. This was going back to 2009. And there was something called the liberation treatment. It was this really brilliant guy out of Italy, this doctor, who was proposing that iron buildups in some of the veins in the back of the neck around some nerve clusters was really a cause of MS. Or really was, and if you could remove those irons, not necessarily the cause, but if you could remove that iron buildup, that the person would see phenomenal results, and he had some anecdotal stuff that was pretty wild, right? It was really impressive what we're seeing. And so here I go back to my Mom, we're gonna go to Italy. There's this new procedure. It's called the liberation. Excuse me. It's called the liberation treatment. And he's saying that we can it's really some phenomenal results. And she just looked at me and said, "There's no way I'm gonna get surgery done at my age. Are you crazy? No way. No one's cutting into my neck and trying to." She goes, "Forget it." She goes, "Listen," she goes, "we've tried everything. If you think there's another way, then you figure it out." She goes, "But I'm done." And so she's pretty stubborn that way. And I said, "Okay." And this is going back to 2009, end of 2008, beginning of 2009. And and I was at a certain point in my life, in my career, where I was like, I'd done so many different things already, and here was an opportunity to really take a deep dive. And really, it was almost like a challenge for my mom. Was like, if you're gonna figure it out, do it yourself, right? And so I really made a conscious decision at that point. So listen, I was going to really try to understand this. I've been blessed with enough abundance of resources I could shift. I was turning 40 at the time, and I figured that if I was going to do it, now was the time, right? That now is if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? So I had this amazing job, this amazing career, working with a great company, and I said to my wife, I think I'm going to go try to figure out this neural stuff. Thought I was crazy for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then she saw I was very serious, right? And she goes, "Well, how long do you think it's going to take?" I'm like, "I don't know." "And how much do you think it's going to cost?" "I don't know." I have no idea, but I know it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of effort, and there's no guarantee other than this. When you just know something, you don't have any evidence of it, you don't have any proof of it yet, but that this is I have to do this. And that really was what it was. That I had to invest the time, energy. And so I started looking at everything that I could find. And certainly there was more information available in 2010. There was the previous 3 decades. And I really started this journey trying to understand, how does our mind work? Not necessarily the hardware, the blood and the guts of it, and the actual mass of it, and the actual organ of the brain, but the actual software of the brain, because I was a software guy. So I really relied on my strengths, and I went back to what I knew, which was information. How does the brain work? And we did some really incredible things, ladies and gentlemen. When I say we, I mean my wife and I, because she was my partner on this from the very beginning and still to this day. And I started looking at, how does our brain really work? And over the period of a few years, I developed some software tools that could analyze large amounts of EEG data, which are just brain scans. So in Europe, in Switzerland, there's this database. It's held at the University of Bern, and it used to be at Zurich, which is the world's largest collection of EEG readings. It's over a quarter million readings now. And it's the world's de facto normative database of EEG. And I said, well, that's where I got to start. There's data there. Let me start looking at it. And really, it's just 250,000 brainwave readings of the 5 different brains and they figured out, hey, this is the normative database. Looking at it head on doesn't really tell you much, but I had a couple of theories. And the first theory that I had was that our neurology had to have some kind of sequential blueprint. Because think about this for a second, ladies and gentlemen. Our neurology starts off as a microscopic little groove, it's a little tube of neurons. And it grows pretty quickly, okay? It grows really quickly, and it becomes a little bit bigger, and it becomes the genesis of our brainstem, okay, which is the very genesis of our entire neurology. And then from that brainstem, it grows, and our brain grows around it. Our spinal cord shoots out of it, and all of our nerve endings sprout from there. Okay, our nervous system is the most complex thing that we know. Okay, hands down, and it's mind-numbingly complex. And I'm like, something this complex cannot develop with this complexity without a blueprint. Does that make sense? Like, it just doesn't make any sense, right? We get furniture from IKEA and the shelf has 6 pages of instructions, right? I think we all suffered through that one time or another, right? Right, when you only got one piece left over and like, this is extra. It's not extra, we just didn't know where to put it, right? So what I'm saying is, it's complex, and all of our neurologies develop exactly the same way. That's pretty exciting, right? So number one, it's got to be neurogenetics. It's got to be programmed into our neurogenetics, right? Period. But there has to be a blueprint. Number one, has to be. Number two, there has to be a regulatory process, like the foreman on the site that's got the blueprint saying, "Hey, are you guys building this thing the right way or no? Right? What's going on?" Right? When I built my house, the site supervisor's name was Tony, and Tony was here, crack of dawn. Everybody went home to make sure that the trades were doing what they were doing, that the house was getting built the way that the plan was built, right? So I figured there had to be a development sequence, and there had to be a regulatory process to make sure the development sequence was going the right way. So I looked at all this crazy data, and knowing what I knew and knowing what I wanted to know, I developed some algorithmic learning machine learning tools that allowed me to apply some filters to dig deeper into the data, to find that development sequence that existed in everybody, to find the regulatory process that existed in everybody. And over a period of about 4.5, 5 years, I was able to do it. I was able to develop these and deduce these two things. And we don't tell anybody what they are. I don't share it. It's not published, and I will never publish it. It's no one's business but ours. But when I saw this, it was really incredible to see that it exists, that this development sequence of the regulatory process existed in every single set of neurology that I could witness. And even since then, we've done thousands of brain scans since then, and it's always the same. When I apply the data to these filters, I see it. And what I saw was that when these sequence is out of normal operation, people have very serious or very minor health issues. They'll certainly have development issues, or certainly have other health issues. So I knew that this was it. So then it was about correcting it. Okay, so if I could get these systems back online, we'd be able to probably help people. All hypotheses, all a theory. So ladies and gentlemen, one thing I'll say that you have to understand today, everything in neurology, when it comes to the operation of the software in our brain, not the hardware, the software, everything's a theory. Okay? And it's going to be a theory until someone can quantify our consciousness and our subconsciousness. Okay, the two things that actually define who we are. Our name is not who we are. Our name is just a name. Our body is just this body. Who our actual being is something else. Until we can actually quantify that, we're kind of stuck just studying the basics of a very physical world. Our mind is not physical. Do we agree with that? That our mind is actually not physical? Our mind is a vibration. Our mind is just energy. Our mind are just brain waves. It's weird. It's kind of upsetting a little bit sometimes when you think about it, that our real being isn't real, right? Because we are who we think we are. In reality, I mean, somebody said that really smart about 600 years ago, but we are who we think we are, right? And so I deduced these things, and I said, well, how do we make these changes? How can we make this thing better? How can we bring these processes in our mind back to normal? Because it's not about blood flow. It's not about a damaged brain. There's no physical damage. It's the software. It's just the wave. So over time, I deduced that I could create compensatory signals that made up for compromised or broken signals in our neurology. And how I wanted to do that was send signals through our skin, right? Because our skin was already sending a mountain of information to our bodies. It was just obvious. And there was research out there that these different receptors were sending different signals, but all this information existed in all these different buckets of information. No one's really taking a very collaborative look at it. So I'll share something funny with you. In the process of developing this technology, I read about 50,000 research papers and about 600 textbooks. And none of them really singularly had any answers in them. You had to You had to look past what was on the page, right? Great, it worked. I saw something somebody else didn't see or hadn't seen, and it wasn't obvious. But so I deduced that we could send signals through the skin because there's all this bits and pieces of research over decades that skin was sending information. I think we already know this, and one of the cool demonstrations that we do right now is that if you close your eyes and that put this pen in your hand, you would know in exactly 1 second that you were holding a pen, correct? So think about this. How did the sensors in your skin, what was this amazing memory in our skin that recognized that this was a pen and told our brain that this was a pen? And then everything that we know about a pen was clearly in our mind. Oh, it's a pen, I use it to write. I have a black pen, I have a blue pen, I have a red pen. All those things came in our mind simply from the sensation of touch. So we knew it was possible. So then it was deducing, how do I send the signals? And so I spent a really long period of time and a lot of money trying to figure out how to send information from my skin, and we were successful and we figured it out, and that's what we do. So the first products we had were insoles and socks, where I could use the sensors on the skin on the bottom of our feet to send that information. But we kept doing more research, right? I never stopped. We started figuring out other ways to send sensations and other signals that we could send. And that's where we are today. Right. And what's really interesting, ladies and gentlemen, you guys got to do this. Is I'm actually, Google this. So in 2021, 2 brilliant scientists in the United States won the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine. They actually found the ion channels, which are genetic in property in our skin, that actually create the nervous action potential that sends the message to the brain. Okay, so all the people that thought I was crazy for suggesting, somebody won 2 Nobel Prizes for it, 2 years. Somebody won the Nobel Prize for that 2 years ago. It's all fine. I'm not bitter at all, because they still haven't helped anybody, and we've helped 7 million people. So I kind of think we're winning. So they actually deduced the stuff in our skin that's sending the signal to the brain. So no more hocus pocus, no more voodoo. No one can say to you that skin can't send the information. Just send them the Nobel Prize. Go on nobelprize.org, type in 2021 prize for physiology and medicine, and be there. And I recommend you Google it, you print it out, and it tells you the skin can send information. They found these, it's called piezo 1 and piezo 2 are the exact ion channels that are creating the action potential, that are creating the nervous signal that goes to the brain. So case closed. Okay, case closed. No more blah, 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 blah. I don't want to hear, oh, it's not possible. It's possible. Okay, just leave us alone. Okay, so let us do what we're doing. Anyways, so we did that, right? And so over the last 7 years, we've been studying the software of the brain more and more and more and more. And what I've deduced over the last 7 years are other neurosignals, neural networks that relate to other physiological, emotional, and psychological processes. Because every physical, every emotional, every psychological process has a neural code attached to it. And every one of those neural codes can get compromised, damaged, or all those different things. Okay. So over the last 7, 8 years, this is what we've deduced. We've figured these different things out. And now, in time, we've been able to devise and create different patterns of stimulation in our skin that send the corresponding compensatory signals to correct those damaged or corrupted neural processes that control different things. So now we have a patch that has a pattern on it that recreates the signals that help manage pain. That's our freedom patch, right? That's this patch. That's this packet right here. This patch has very specific ridges on it that create very specific signals through our skin that help manage pain, right? We have our liberty patch here. Okay, so this patch, okay, so we've got these glorious patches that do different things, right? And we're like, why is that important? Why did it exist in patches? This is very important for you to understand. Because we needed the most versatile form factor, the most versatile product that could be applied by anyone almost anywhere to get the benefits, right? And the complexity that I can build into patches, I cannot build into the socks. And some of these ridges and patterns are so complex, there's no way to knit it. There's just not, it's not possible to put it into a pair of socks. Okay, number one. Number two, if somebody needs more than one patch, how am I going to do that with the socks? Right? You can only wear one pair of socks. Can't wear two pairs of socks. You can't wear three pairs of socks. You can't wear 10 pairs of socks, right? Can't do it. And in the summer, people don't want to wear socks, right? So you kind of have to think about why, because a lot of people need more than one thing. That's why we had to advance to the patches. And what happened with COVID, so those guys don't know what was COVID. COVID was an absolute ice age for us, right? We couldn't meet our friends. We couldn't meet our families. We couldn't show people the product. We couldn't do the demonstration. We couldn't do any of these things. What it did was really, adversity forms characters. It really forced me to think about what is the next phase of our mission and how do we get to more people. We needed a vast leap forward in product development and science to get to the mission of helping 1 billion people. So now we have very discrete products that serve and speak to very specific benefits. Okay, so the Freedom Patch speaks to pain. And guess what? We have this amazing published study that says that this pain patch is a miracle patch for what it does for pain. It's unbelievable. Okay, people are getting off of their oral medications for pain. The quickness, the results, the advanced information, and everything will be there. And I recommend you Google it, you print it out, and it tells you the skin can send information. They found these ions. It's called piezo 1 and piezo 2 are the exact ion channels that are creating the action potential, that are creating the nervous signal that goes to the brain. So case closed. Okay, case closed. No more blah, 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 blah. I don't want to hear, oh, it's not possible. It's possible. Okay, just leave us alone. Okay, so let us do what we're doing. Anyways, so we did that, right? And so over the last 7 years, we've been studying the software of the brain more and more and more and more. And what I've deduced over the last 7 years are other neurosignals, neural networks that relate to other physiological, emotional, and psychological processes. Because every physical, every emotional, every psychological process has a neural code attached to it. And every one of those neural codes can get compromised, damaged, or all those different things. Okay. So over the last 7, 8 years, this is what we've deduced. We've figured these different things out. And now, in time, we've been able to devise and create different patterns of stimulation in our skin that send the corresponding compensatory signals to correct those damaged or corrupted neural processes that control different things. So now we have a patch that has a pattern on it that recreates the signals that help manage pain. That's our Freedom Patch, right? That's this patch. That's this packet right here. This patch has very specific ridges on it that create a very specific signals through our skin that help manage pain, right? We have our Liberty Patch here. Okay, so this patch, okay, so we've got these glorious patches that do different things, right? And we're like, why is that important? Why did it exist in patches? This is very important for you to understand. Because we needed the most versatile form factor, the most versatile product that could be applied by anyone almost anywhere to get the benefits, right? And the complexity that I can build into patches, I cannot build into the socks. And some of these ridges and patterns are so complex, there's no way to knit it. There's just not, it's not possible to put it into a pair of socks. Okay, number one. Number two, if somebody needs more than one patch, how am I going to do that with the socks? Right? You can only wear one pair of socks. Can't wear two pairs of socks. You can't wear three pairs of socks. You can't wear 10 pairs of socks, right? Can't do it. And in the summer, people don't want to wear socks, right? So you kind of have to think about why, because a lot of people need more than one thing. That's why we had to advance to the patches. And what happened with COVID, so those guys don't know what was COVID. COVID was an absolute ice age for us, right? We couldn't meet our friends, we couldn't meet our families, we couldn't show people the product, we couldn't do the demonstration, we couldn't do any of these things. What it did was really, adversity forms character. So it really forced me to think about what is the next phase of our mission and how do we get to more people. We needed a vast leap forward in product development and science to get to the mission of helping 1 billion people. So now we have very discrete products that serve and speak to very specific benefits. Okay, so the Freedom Patch speaks to pain. And guess what? We have this amazing published study that says that this pain patch is a miracle patch for what it does for pain. It's unbelievable. Okay, people are getting off of their oral medications for pain. The quickness, the results, the resolve. So one patch lasts 24 hours. Tell me one pain pill that lasts 24 hours. There isn't one, right? And all the side effects. So it's side effect free, drowsy free, easy to use, all those amazing things. And all of our patches have those same values in terms of easy to use and drug free. And so now, so when that happened, we're like, okay, now what do we do? What are we going to call this product? And what is it supposed to do? And how are we supposed to bring it to people so they can recognize it? So everything, people, companies, products, places have a reputation, right? They have a legacy and a history. We all agree? Isn't that pretty much true? When you hear a name, you think of something of that thing. When people hear the name Vox, they think socks. Correct? Yeah, it's kind of rhymes too, right? Where I think we've been there for a long time. We all agree with that. So we need to change the narrative and expand people's vision of what's possible. It's not just socks. Socks has actually become 10% of our mission now. 90% of our mission, because this is what the customers, we actually have no control of what the public's going to perceive. We understand this, right? We actually have no control of what the public wants. The public's going to tell you what they want. So if you make 10 things available and they buy 2 of those things, those are the things that they want. Right? We actually have no control over that. That's just the bottom line. That's just the way things go. Right? And I know from my research and I know from my market research that making products available that the consumers find easy, usable, and reusable is the way to go. So that's why we've done it this way. And the rebranding was important, is to open people's idea to what else is available. Because soon you say Vox, like, oh, that's the sock company. Or those are the sock people. The crazy sock people sometimes I hear. It's just a different story. Right? But being very open and very candid with you, we needed to retell that story because this is new. This is groundbreaking, world-changing stuff. Right? Because it's a whole different story. We went from one technology, right, guys? We went from one technology to 12 technologies. So how can you put all of that into one jar? How can you put all those messages into one envelope? It's not fair to us. It's not fair to the end consumer. So this is why we've gotten down this road. And what's happened now is there are people that are seeing our products. They're saying, you know what? I don't know about the other stuff, but I'm going to try that. My hubby can't sleep, or I got this shoulder ache, or, I'm stressed out, or my kids need help with studying. So we have this amazing bandwidth of products that are so great, right? And so that's what we're trying to do. And that's where we're at today. And it's going gangbusters. It's going gangbusters. And I think everybody in that room that's been with us for a while, and Beth, I know you guys are going to talk about a bunch of amazing things today in terms of the products and the testimonials, but people, this is why we're doing what we're doing. And I know that it's with products that we have now that our mission is going to become reality. We're going to change the lives of billions of people, but it's gatherings like this and it's people like you that are going to get us there. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're with the patches. That's why we needed to do this, because the technology has advanced so far that we can't put it in that small little box anymore. It requires a super imagination and a super effort. And that's what we're doing with Super Patch. So with that, thank you so much for listening. Beth, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. and so good to see everybody. I want to see everybody in person soon. So Terry, Lori, Paul, all the people in the greater Toronto area closer to home. I'm looking at Terry. He's right in the middle back there. I see him sitting back there. Hi, Terry. Thanks for getting out the Paul Corbin, brother. Can we please do another event in Mississauga or Toronto, please? Like, let's get everybody back together on the fire camp and make some noise. Thanks, everyone. You guys have a wonderful day and a great weekend. Bye-bye.